Okay, we got a 2013 Dodge Dart. We're going to be replacing the thermostat on here. This is the 2.0 liter. 2.4 liter is going to be basically the same. Here is our new thermostat and housing. Let's see, it comes with the seal and everything we need here. And our sensor. Alright, first thing we're going to do is get this up on ramps because we're going to have to drain some coolant out of here, and we're going to lose some coolant. Okay, so I wanted to show you the reason we're changing this. We've got a check engine light here. Let me show you the code. Okay, we only got one engine fault here, and the BCM, that's the LEDs that are throwing a code. But basically, when you get this check engine light, you can't use your remote start. And it's just kind of annoying to have, but you know, as far as anything else, it's not affecting how it drives. It's, you know, appears to be working for the most part, but the computer thinks that it's not heating up fast enough, so it's throwing this code. We'll take a look at it. Alright, so it just says thermostat rationality. If it tells me anything else, it's a PO 128. So anyways, this is what we're trying to solve. If this doesn't work, from what I've heard, you got to get it flashed at the dealership. So I'll know pretty much immediately once this is replaced if this is going to fix this issue, this check engine light, because it comes back pretty quick. Alright, so we're over on this driver's side here, where the transmission cooler lines, you see, and here's our spout we're going to be draining from. Now we're going to take some 1/4 inch rubber hose. Doesn't really, you don't need much of it, just a little piece, and we're going to slip that on here because this sits right on top of this piece of this subframe. And if you don't have any hose, then you might as well just put a couple pans under your transmission and take your thermostat loose, because it's going to go everywhere anyways. So hopefully we can drain this out here. We're going to open this up. Set that down in there. Most likely it'll be too tight to move with your fingers, so just get you some pliers. Alright, so we got it opened up a little bit there. We're going to have to take the cap off. Now, it goes without saying, do not start on this until the engine is completely cold. Everything is cool. Alright, we're just going to let that drain. Go ahead and pop this sensor right here loose. This will just lift up and off of the throttle. Why do we just need to get this out of the way? But we do need to disconnect the duct, the hose over there. Flat screwdriver or 8mm. Just loosen it up a little bit. Just wiggle that back. Let's take this out of the way. Gives us a little more room here. Well, I've got it on my mind. Just wanted to say something about this T right here. This is a weak point, and I've seen it where, you know, destroyed an engine. So if you've got over 100,000 miles, probably not a bad idea to replace this hose. This is a whole assembly. You know, you could probably replace the T, because this is usually what busts. But you might as well just go ahead and replace this whole hose. And I'll say, you know, you can judge for yourself what you need to remove to be able to get to this. If you can squeeze your hands in here and work these bolts out and get to this without removing a lot, then do it that way. But I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to go about it. And plus, I need to get enough things out of the way where I can kind of give you a good visual and be able to film this. So we're going to go ahead and take our negative loose here, so 10 millimeter. Set that aside. We're going to get this computer box over out of the way. Now we've got 3 10 millimeters. Got one over here. Got one here. Got one here. Now this also has a little ground wire. So don't forget to put that back. But we're just going to take these 3 nuts right here off. It's not a big deal. This is the little ground wire. We're going to go ahead and take these connectors for the computer off. Just push down with your thumb right there, and that will just lift that right up. Just be careful with it. It may be a little bit stuck from the dirt. Alright, so we'll get this off here, do the same thing on this other side. Alright, we'll just carefully set this somewhere. Now I like to put tape on these just so no dirt, anything can get in these. Okay, now you can see at this point you would probably be able to get in here and do everything that you need to do. You can get to the bolts. You can get to the clip here, and here's our connector. However, it's just another step for me to remove this battery and this piece, and then I don't have to reach down, and you know, it'll also be easy to kind of show you in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the battery off of here, and we're just going to take it right here, this 10 millimeter, and get this loosened up. That's got a whole bunch of wires on it. We're just going to pull this insulation out from around here. We've got a wire clipped to the side of this. I'm going to be removing this piece here. It's just a part of the battery tray. This one was clipped to it, but you can see this clip down here is broken, so don't worry about that. So we got 3 of these 10 millimeters holding this piece, and then I can take this piece off, and then we'll get the battery out. We got another wire right up here too. Another wire clipped right down here we need to get. Okay, there's another one right here, but this one broke. So let me show you the 10 millimeters. So there's one. We've got one right here, and then we've got one right here at the back, and that just holds this piece that runs around here. We'll just start with this one right down here. Right, so here's our first one. Looks like this is all finished draining. We're going to go ahead and close this back. I was saying, you cannot turn this thing with your fingers. Now if it feels like it's stuck and won't move, just simply drain it with your pan when you take the thermostat out, because you don't want to break it, and then you got more problems. Now you could also pop one of these hoses loose over here and drain it too. Now you can see this coolant, there's nothing wrong with it, it's clean, so I always just pour it up. Just get yourself a clean jug. Use a paint filter. These paint filters are really cheap. Coolant is not. Like I said, we will lose a little bit of coolant, but it's not going to be a lot. And this will be clean once we get it in the jug. Alright, as you can see, we poured up a whole entire jug, gallon here. And when you buy more coolant, it needs to be OAT coolant. Alright, now we're back on this. One of the reasons I went ahead and poured that up is because if you drop a bolt, I can guarantee it's going to go right in your coolant. Alright, so we got one more after this one. These are all 10 millimeters. That's all this piece is. Said it just has these little tabs, little hook right there. And you're going to be wondering, why didn't you just leave the computer box on there? Well, I could have, but I wasn't originally planning on taking this off. Okay, and this is a 10 millimeter right here, just a clamp for the battery. Alright, I'm liking this a lot better here. Okay, now you notice the crimp type band here. We got to get, I usually use a needle nose or something. We just kind of break it loose. Now we're just going to be putting a screw style clamp back on here. Okay, so we got our pan down here. Now you want to note that we've got it where it's going to catch in this runoff. We will have more coolant, more than likely, coming out of here. So just expect that. Just because we drained it down doesn't mean we won't have some more. Now I will say it's nice that they put it in this location. It's not real hard to get to. I'm surprised they didn't put it underneath or something. So we gotta bend this tab up. So I'm just using these needle nose and just do what you gotta do to get it loose. So that's the first part of it. And there's the second part. Still a little bit stuck there. So you see how I did that? Just rolled it. Not a big deal. And then there's that. And you can even put these back if you want, but you have to buy these clamps, and then you got to get the tool that crimps it on there, and it's, you know, it's a one-time usage. So as far as I know anyway. Now right up here we just have this wire. It runs down to the crank sensor here, I believe. It's just got this plastic clip that just goes around this portion of the thermostat. See how we've got this little lock here. We're just going to take that. Okay, so now we need to get on our connector here that's actually going to the thermostat. Going to our sensor here, coolant sensor. Now I also had tried swapping this, didn't make any difference with my check engine light either. So now we're just going to squeeze down. You can see we've got the lock pulled back. So just squeeze down there and give that a pull back. Alright, now depending on how stuck this hose is, I'll use my heat gun. Sometimes I'll carefully use this tool. You don't want to get too rough with it because you'll rip your hose. But so it seems to have a little bit of movement to it here. Now, usually these are stuck so bad I have to use the heat gun. This one's actually coming loose. Let's see if we've got any residual coolant. Nope. Let's set this over out of the way. Okay, we got a hose that's hooking to the back here, and if you can see that, there is a clip. Now for that, we're going to have to use a pick tool down here with a hook, and we're going to slip it underneath that. And give it a little, try not to lose it, but you definitely want to give it a tug off. Okay, now I'm coming at it from the side, kind of in the direction I need to be. And I'm just taking it completely off, but it's just a clip like that. We'll put it back on there. And we're going to reach down here, and if there's coolant coming out, we're going to move our We're going to attempt to move the pan. Now this one's a little bit stuck. I'm going to push it on. Okay, there we go. And we don't have any coolant coming out, so that's good. Let me give you a better look at this here. So still have so much stuff in the way, but see, there's our pipe, and it's just hooking to that in the back there. So just pulled it right off of there. It's kind of hard to show you with this throttle housing and everything in the way, but that's all it is. And we're just going to slip that clip wherever I laid it. We're going to slip that right back on there. That way when we put it back, it'll clip right on. So here's our clip. I'll reach back here and get this back in place, hopefully. Okay, so it's pretty easy. You just get it back on there like that, and then we put it on the new one, it'll lock. Just kind of put it right back on, same way that it come off. Okay, so we're going to start on the ones on this side, and see we've got a 8mm here on the bottom, and for some reason we got a 10mm on the top. So this also has a clamp here that clamps to the top of this hose. So got to make sure to put that clamp back. Go ahead and get this out. You really want to get yourself a magnet if you don't have one. It saves a lot of trouble. So anyway, there's the 8mm, the first one. Okay, now we'll get the 10mm. Then we'll get on the ones in the back that are a little more difficult. Now also the one in the back has a bracket that is supporting the throttle body there. We may have to loosen all that up to be able to slide the thermostat back in and probably get it out as well. So we got to deal with that. Alright, so there's our top 10mm. So we got the easy ones in the front. Okay, so let me show you what we got here. You can see this brace right here. We've got 2 8mm. You can see them. One down there at the bottom, and it runs, that bottom one running right over the top of our thermostat housing. And so we got those 2 8mm, that are going to have to be loosened. And also, come over here, we've got a couple of 10 millimeters right there. So we're going to absolutely have to loosen these off at the very least. And we may need to just take it completely out of the way. But we're going to start with loosening these right here up, and then we'll take those 8s out and see what we can do with it. Alright, so I'm going to get on these with a 10 millimeter ratchet wrench, if you can see what I'm doing here. And we're going to loosen both of these up. And, you know, if we have to use different tools, then so be it, until we can get them loosened. Alright, so I've got these loose. I think I'm just, I'm having to take them loose anyways. I'm almost thinking about just taking this completely off, just because I'm all but sure it's just going to continue to get in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and get these. All right, so there's our first one. Get the other one here. Alright, so we got those 2 off. Alright, we're going to get on these 8 millimeters. The lower one here first. Said a magnet is going to help you out so you're not dropping stuff. We'll get it as loose as we can, and then we'll get our magnet in here and get it. Right, so I've got limited space, so I'm using my little wrench here, ratchet wrench, to get the top one. Once I got it loose, I can drop my tool there, but anyways, I've about got it. And you can see this whole thing is pretty loose. Got to get my magnet over here. Now this little hose we have right here, I'm going to have to unclip as well. That's going to the top of the thermostat. Okay, so slip this off the wire and the studs there, and I'm going to see what I can do with it as far as getting it out of the way here. It may just have to be loose for the moment, because it doesn't act like it wants to go anywhere. Okay, so I want to show you how I'm getting to this back bolt that's difficult to get to. And I went ahead and I took the throttle body off. Now I don't think it's going to be necessary in your case, but I got tired of not being able to give you a good visual here of what's going on. But this one here is the difficult one. Now looking at it here, you can see where this bolt sits. It's like right below this spout right here. Now as you can see, we have this pipe, got this pipe running down here to it, so it's you know, right in our way, kind of getting to that bolt back there, and it's, you know, pretty well impossible to show you exactly where it's at, but it's a 10 millimeter, and what I've got here is, I can keep from dropping this. I've just got a couple of these little 1/4 inch extensions, what I had handy, and I've just kind of connected onto it to be able to get in there, and it's small enough, you know, just a little 1/4 inch, and preferably if you got a little 1/4 inch swivel would be perfect. Otherwise, you are going to have to loosen up that pipe. That pipe goes to the back. It's a whole nother deal. So without doing a lot of other work, you need to get a little swivel to get to that bolt back there. Now I will show you this throttle housing, putting it back, just so you want, in case you want to take yours off. Alright, so you can watch where I'm going here. I'm just feeding it right down below. I'm kind of having to go at a little bit of an angle. Now I'm also trying to pull this back as straight as I can. So got it moving. Just need to get it completely loose here. I'm gonna get my smaller ratchet. Alright, well I can pretty much move this by hand. I'm just loosening. You can see that we've got this loose. And like I said, I would expect there to be some coolant, but if it's been stuck open, then maybe not a lot. And again, I'm going to have to get my magnet, or I'm going to drop this and be hunting for it. Alright, so there is that pesky 10mm. Now we should be able to, let me get my pan in a position. We'll see what it's going to do here. Still got one line, remember, on the top. Okay, now this hose down here, we're going to take a pick tool and we're going to get a hold of this. Try to work that up carefully. And if it pops off, we'll just put it back on there, but we should be able to get. Okay, it's still stuck. Okay, well, I was trying to pull it up and it just broke right there, so I'll have to deal with this now. But it's, for some reason, I've got it pulled up far enough, but it is not turning loose as of yet. Just took it completely off there. I don't know what's going on, but it ain't turning loose. And this is what I was talking about, like with that T-fitting. This is what happens with plastic. It just, the heat and everything. These cars run sometimes up to 220, 230 degrees before the thermostat opens. This gets really hot, and so this plastic gets brittle. I mean, I broke it, no fault of my own, just barely pulling on it. So that this is something that's going to break, and it would have broke on its own. It would have been problems. Just a matter of time. Alright, so we're just going to wiggle this out through here. The gasket was stuck just a little bit, and of course it's trying to hang up beside that. So here's our old one. Now, so that thing, this piece here still hasn't come off. Okay, there it finally came off there. But this is no good. Okay, so here's a look at these side by side. See, they're pretty much identical. Now this one has this, whatever purpose. Let's flip them over this way. Okay, so let me show you what I come up with here for this little piece that broke off. Also, the chalkiness looks like this thing has been just slightly leaking there, hence the reason it broke so easily. So what we did, went and got another fitting. So this is the part number. You can see it's Dorman 800-080. This is 5/16. Measured that, determined it to be a 5/16. Didn't know if this was going to work. This is what it looks like. It just pushes right on there. Now I already test fitted it, and as you can see, this thing, the way it locks, it's meant to stay on there like that, so it ain't gonna come back off. So we've already pushed it on there. That part stays. You push these clips in to pull this off. So you know, sometimes it's hit or miss. You can't find these types of fittings, but in this case, Dorman sells these. They do a lot of fittings like that, I guess, but can't always get lucky. But this works, so if you run into that problem, you get 2 of these, and so you got an extra. So we're going to go ahead. We'll fasten this onto the hose. Get ourselves a one of these screw style clamps that fits it, and we'll put that on the hose and we'll just push that back on there. So let's go ahead and get this in place. Alright, so you want to take the time to clean this surface up here. Alright, so we're going to start working this back in. Got this in place. Okay, I actually had to start that tube around that other side, and now it's easily going into place here. Now this does have to go underneath this bracket over here. So I gotta make sure that the bracket for the throttle housing is over the top of it. I'm going to be starting with this one right here. I've got my magnet, and I've got a little bit of Loctite on here. I usually use medium, but I'm out of medium, so high strength it is. Alright, so got that in place. We'll go ahead and start this loosely. Not going to tighten anything. Just going to leave it loose till we get them all in place. About like that. Run this as the 10 that goes back up here. Just getting the easier ones first, and then we'll work our way to the back there. Alright, so this is our first 8mm that's holding the bracket here. Alright, so we'll just run this down a little bit, and then we'll get to the lower one. Now the lower one is like all but impossible to show you. So we're just getting all these loosely in place. And while we're at it, I guess we need to get this upper 8mm that's going on the bracket here. We'll just put that loosely in place. So again, I'll take my magnet and I'm going to work this one back here, and so this one goes like below this spout here. So I don't think you would ever get this without a magnet. It's going to be too hard to kind of hold it and guide it into place. Alright, I'm going to take this little 1/4-inch extension and do just like I did. And like I said, if you had a little, one of those little swivels or one of those little screwdrivers that has the little spring swivel, that would probably work as well. And then just snug it up. These call for 80 inch-pounds, but don't overdo it. For sure, I would just snug them up with a 1/4 inch. Okay, so all of the bolts going into the thermostat housing are loosely put in by hand. We're going to go ahead and get these two 10mm nuts back on this bracket. So I'm just going to start snugging these up. Now, if you want to torque them, 80 inch-pounds, the max. But I'm just going to snug them up with the little 1/4-inch ratchet. Get them snug. The seal on the thermostat housing will do its job. The biggest, snug them up good, but the biggest thing is don't overdo it and strip them out. So if you stick with a 1/4-inch ratchet and get it nice and tight, you'll be fine. So I'm just getting the difficult one back here. This, like I said, this will be the most trouble you have. Swivel would probably be better. But you want to just try to get it as snug as you can. I'm kind of pulling it into alignment here. Alright, so I'm just snugging up this upper bracket. And we'll get the one on the upper part of the thermostat, snug it up some more, and then we'll tighten the two 10mm there on our throttle. I've run them down, but they're not tight. Alright, we get these snugged down. That'll be it for the thermostat. Alright, so the thermostat housing is tight. Just going to snap this back in place. Alright, to get this one off, I took a hammer and a screwdriver and kind of held it up against something and broke that tab. It's not very easy to get these loose. Now I've got to dig that out. Most time it'll be so brittle you can just crush it and it'll just fall out. That stuff had the consistency of like sawdust, just completely destroyed. So we're just going to tighten that up on there and we'll push it down into place. So it doesn't matter which way this is oriented, I can spin that little plastic piece any which way I want. I want to make sure it's nice and snug. Alright, let's get this throttle housing back on. I took the time to clean it out with some alcohol. Got a couple of places for your locating pegs. There and there. You see the little plastic nubs. Just Let's get those lined up. Back where they go. Like so. I know these were calling for like 8 foot-pounds or 80 inch-pounds. There's like no way. This is going into plastic. It's a little coarse threaded bolt. I'm just going to snug them down. This has a little bracket. Goes on this side. So we've got a couple of T30s. And then we got a couple of 10 millimeters. We also got a bracket back there. I'll show you that in just a second. So there's a 10 millimeter. Okay, this one back here has a studded portion. That's what the bracket is going to go to, that runs to the back there. It has a 13 millimeter, and this is kind of tricky because you got to reach back behind there to get to it, you know, kind of like everything else. Said it's up to you if you want to take the throttle housing off. It may not be necessary, but it gave me a chance to give you a little bit better view. See, I'm just putting my hand like right here and snugging them. It doesn't have to be just crazy tight. If I torqued these, I probably wouldn't go at about 50 to 60 inch-pounds maybe. Said it's going into plastic. These are the T30s. Alright, so let me show you this bracket. Okay, so this is going to slide on top of here, and it's being held by a little 10 millimeter nut, but we've got to reach. We got to reach back here, 13 millimeter, and this is kind of tricky to get in place, I ain't gonna lie. Okay, so to show you how I went about this, popped this little hose loose here to kind of give it a little slack, went in front of this one and snugged it up. So it's just a little bit tricky getting it started more than anything. Okay, and on this hose here, we're using a 19 to 45 millimeter. This size seems to work the best for all coolant hoses for the most part, or it's 3/4 to 1 inch and 3/4. And we'll just snug this up. These are stainless steel. So I think the next thing to do will be replacing this, at least replacing the T or just getting a whole new hose. I can see some chalking around that. Looks like it's probably leaking a little bit too. Haven't been losing any coolant, but definitely something you want to get ahead of. Alright, we're just going to get this back in place here. So we've just got the 3 10 millimeters. Nothing to it. We'll just go ahead and snug these down. Now we didn't lose much coolant, but that's all I've got in there for now. We're going to have to get some of this air out. Alright, so we're going to get it cranked up here, work some of this air out, and then we'll delete the code and see how it's going to do here and check for leaks. Alright, so here we got it cranked up. Everything's looking good. I don't see any leaks. I don't really expect to, but you never know. You definitely want to keep an eye on something like this after you change the thermostat or disturb anything. Definitely keep an eye on your coolant and everything. But so I'm just going to have to get some more coolant in here, work the air out, and then we'll delete the code out. Okay, so I've took it down the road, so you can only get so much coolant in there. Let me show you how much I put in. So that's what I got in there before the thermostat opened, so I'm going to put the rest in after it cools off. So the other good thing, I did not have to delete the code, just unplugging the battery. I guess deleted it out because it was not there when I cranked the car. So I've test drove it. We don't have any leaks. Everything looks good. Right now it's running good. I'm going to go ahead and show you the scan tool, show you about what temperature this thing's running around. Okay, so no check engine lights, so hopefully this thing stays off and the remote start can be used again. Now it is staying more consistent in the temperature as well. Alright, so here's the temperature right now. We're at 91. Okay, now this will get up to, this thing is around 110 degrees. Now if you're not running the AC and not driving it, you know, just sitting there idling, it'll get up to 110 before it kicks that fan on. Now if it doesn't kick on at 110 Celsius, then you got some kind of problem. But it'll kick on about then. It actually gets pretty hot. But we can sit there and watch it. But it's running. When I was driving, it seemed like it was trying to stay around 98 degrees, staying a little bit more constant, which these things, I think they'll run around 200 or so. And if you're idling, it's going to be higher than that. And like I was saying earlier, with the thermostat that was on there, it wasn't running really bad. It may have been staying a little bit cooler than it should have been, but it wasn't that bad. I think it was getting down to around 180 or something, but it wasn't what I would say way out of range. The gauge was about halfway, but for whatever reason, I guess the thermostat was not heating the vehicle up quickly enough or something, and the computer notices it and it kicks on that check engine light. As I said, if that doesn't fix the issue, then from what they said, you have to go to the dealer and have your computer flash because there's some kind of issue. But I'm hoping that this takes care of it here. Right, up to 106. Fan has still not kicked on yet. And you can see the gauge up here, it's right in the middle. It's not really moved any. All right, now we're at 109. Fan has not kicked on yet. It should be kicking on just any second, and when it does, this is going to drop way on down, and then it usually keeps it down pretty cool. All right, so there we go. Fan just kicked on, and watch, it'll start dropping down here. Now, when I say 110 Celsius, this is at 230 degrees. So these newer engines really run hot. So it's dropping down. Right, I just wanted to show y'all that. Alright, so once it cools down, we'll go ahead and top that coolant off. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to have to add any at all. Now this is what I got, so if I do have to add some, like I said, it's already pre-mixed. And so that's what I'm put in there. It's orange. I think that stuff's red, but anyways. So anyways, I'm just going to continue to monitor it. Usually the check engine light would have already been on there and been back by now, but I'm just going to keep monitoring it, and if it comes back, I'll deal with that. But it's definitely seems like the temperature's running more consistent than it was. So anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.